Beat sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
The county government of Kajiado, with the approval of His Excellency Joseph Olelenku, would like to notify all landowners in Kajiado County to take advantage of the ongoing 100% waiver on outstanding land rates penalties, which will end on 15 September 2020. The county government will institute the necessary measures to recover all unpaid rates and penalties. Payments should be made through the respective sub-county offices or through a banker's check or direct transfers.
Je, maumivu ya kichwa na kukosesha amani? Kaluma Strong hutuliza maumivu ya kichwa, maumivu ya mwili na hata huondoa joto jingi mwilini. Kaluma Strong ina aspirin kama kiungo. Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
This is NTV.
What an exciting night to be hosting you on NTV tonight. My name is Olive Burrows and let's go Kenya, let's go. NTV will be bringing you live the 40th edition of the London Marathon, and also it's also exciting because it happens to be team coverage Wednesday, and it's exciting because of who I have in studio with me. Making me eat my words. We have Mark Masai here in studio. We have Charity Mwangi in studio. We have Seth Olale. We have Anita Nkonge. And joining us from Mombasa, we have Kevin Mutai. I am so excited, so thrilled that you're able to join us on NTV tonight. We will be looking back at 6 months of the COVID-19 pandemic. How have we fared as a country? I'm sure my excitement is palpable, and I hope it carries us through the rest of the news. Here are the highlights.
Tonight, it's getting hot in Migori's kitchen.
The night yesterday was with the drone, so I came just to see a commander and to lodge complaints.
Assembly Speaker claims his life is in danger yet again as his security is withdrawn. Also tonight, defense has been beefed up, literally. Ministry of Agriculture begins the transfer of the Kenya Meat Commission to the Defense Ministry as ordered by the President. Plus, half a year of a shrinking economy, job losses, disruption of academic calendars, and debilitating stigma. Team Coverage Wednesday examines the COVID-19 pandemic 6 months on.
Let's go Kenya, let's go. And so for Nation Media Group, it's the value we place at celebrating our athletes.
We will be delivering the London Marathon to you on 4th of October this year.
And catch the 40th edition of the London Marathon live and exclusive to NTV. Let's go Kenya, let's go.
Indeed, the stakes are high tonight. The closing school bells rang way before anyone expected them to. The padlocks at the doors of businesses were clasped well before closing hours and longer than ever before. And before anyone would think of taking off their kits, the final whistle was blown. Stadia stood still and silent since sports was stopped. If hospitals could speak, they would probably have hoarse voices after screaming for help, emergency and suffocation. The pain of the COVID-19 pandemic has been and is a big deal, but some opted to make big deals of it, crooked ones at that, and at the expense of the vulnerable. The past 6 months have arguably been the evolution of life altogether. And from tonight, NTV will be doing a series of features that look at the journey so far, starting from tonight's team coverage all the way to Sunday. We have the team here with us, and we will be getting into the stories in a bit. I've already introduced them, and they will be introducing themselves in a short while. But let's get straight into the news of the day. And the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission detectives this morning raided the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority headquarters located in Nairobi. The premises gates were locked and no staff were allowed to leave the building. Those trying to access the KEMSA offices were also barred from doing so. The EACC officers confiscated computers and other documents that may link the authority to the 7.6 billion shilling procurement scandal. Detectives then extended the operation to the residences of the suspended KEMSA CEO, Jonah Manjari, the suspended procurement director, Charles Juma, the suspended commercial director, Eliud Mureithi, and the finance director, Nahashon Waiganjo. The operation comes a day after the KEMSA board, led by the chairman, Kemi Gitura, and the CEO, Jonah Manjari, were grilled at Integrity Center. My life is in danger, the Migori County Assembly Speaker Boaz Okoth has stated. Migori Assembly Speaker claims he has been threatened twice in less than a week. He further alleges that his house was attacked on Wednesday at dawn, just after his security was withdrawn on Tuesday. Okokusa reports.
Speaker made the shocking claims this morning, moments after the House reconvened. The visibly shaken Speaker almost broke down while narrating to members last night's ordeal.
Actually, it is an attack in terms of people outside there. And I have dogs. Actually, that is, I think, what saved the day. So they did not break the door, attack anyone, just like that.
This comes barely a week after he made similar claims that he was attacked at a Kisumu hotel by goons allegedly hired by ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna. And today, the Speaker accused a member of the County Assembly of being complicit.
Because I've overheard, some of them say that Speaker cannot impeach a body. But that is not the case, because me, I'm only a regulator. I'm sitting there. They will debate and vote. And such votes is loud. You say yes or no, or you abstain. It is not about the Speaker.
The Speaker, accompanied by the Majority Leader Edward Ouru and a host of MCAs and Assembly staff, later recorded a statement at the Migori County Police Station.
They say it's procedural, you know.
You see?
Procedural. They were told to remove my security.
Order from above?
I don't know. Order from above, maybe.
Similar claims were also made by Governor Obado, who criticized the move, terming it dictatorial.
I'm equally not spared. They have also withdrawn my security. And I think somebody is trying to imagine that that is intimidating me. That is not intimidating me. Because I'm not ready to be intimidated like that.
The Migori Speaker's threat to his security come amidst the challenge to the seeming security of tenure for Okoth Obado as Migori governor as he faces an impeachment motion. Contrary to earlier expectations, the motion was not factored in today's order paper, despite all the 57 MCAs turning up. Majority Leader Edward Ouru declined to divulge the specific date for tabling the motion after it emerged that there were plans by a rival faction to front a similar but a defective motion.
As a majority leader, I have to take the party position. I am the one to table it. So definitely my vote has to be a yes. Yeah, for impeachment, because it's me who is going to table it. Yeah, but the other members, at least them, they have a leeway. Yeah, so I'm covered.
Some sources from the assembly intimated to NTV that the motion of impeachment for Governor Obado will be tabled on Tuesday next week at 8 a.m. and that the notice of the said motion will be presented to the House Business Committee on Wednesday. Then the Migori governor will be served with the motion on Thursday, awaiting his defense at the assembly. Oukokusa, NTV, Migori.
Later this evening, it emerged that security for the embattled Migori governor, Okoth Obado, was also withdrawn. I wonder why. Media Council of Kenya, Media Owners Association and other stakeholders in the media industry have condemned the move by the Council of Governors to stop commercial engagements with the Nation Media Group on account of the company's coverage of corruption in the counties. The stakeholders have termed the move by COG as an attempt to infringe the independence and freedom of the media.
We also take note that the media has continued to recklessly publish unverified information linking governors to corruption. We note today's publication in the Daily Nation newspaper and hereby state that due to the unprofessional conduct by the Nation media, we have resolved that no county government will advertise with the Nation Media Group until the situation is rectified.
That was on Tuesday, and this Wednesday, the chairman of the Council of Governors, Wycliffe Oparanya, followed up on the resolution, sending a letter directing governors to immediately stop advertising with Nation Media Group on account of the Daily Nation newspaper's coverage of corruption cases in the counties, touching on 8 governors. The Media Council of Kenya wants a COG to withdraw the statement, saying that governors need to be cognizant of the fact that they are accountable to the public for the use of funds in their respective counties, and the public, through the media, have every right to question and hold them to account. On its part, the Media Owners Association has termed the move by the governors as an attempt by COG to use commercial leverage to influence editorial outcomes, saying it is ill-advised in a constitutional dispensation that encourages freedom of media and transparency in public institutions. At the same time, Kenya Editors Guild has termed the move as an effort by governors to seek prior censorship powers over the media so that no negative articles about them are published. The Editors Guild has called on media houses to ignore the statement, which it says amounts to blatant threat against media and gross violation of media freedom and editorial independence. Vincent Odur, NTV.
This next story has my Twitter thumbs twitching. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya has defended the planned transfer of oversight of the Kenya Meat Commission to the Defense Ministry. Munya says the move is strategic since the Defense Forces are the Commission's largest customer, and the transfer will further anchor the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative. Munya also says that the State Department of Livestock will retain a seat on the board of KMC. Julian Zamboko takes a bite out of that one.
The Kenya Meat Commission is placed under the umbrella of the State Department of Livestock and plays the role of purchasing and processing livestock meat, operating abattoirs and cold storage facilities across the country, as well as serving as the anchor buyer in emergency situations such as when drought hits pastoralist areas. This is, however, set to change if a circular dated September 7, 2020 and signed by Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya is anything to go by. The transfer of ministerial functions pertaining the Commission implies that the Defence Ministry will absorb the Commission's 2.7 billion shillings budget, of which 69% is dedicated to recurrent expenses, with employees' compensation taking up 326 million shillings. The Defence Ministry will also spearhead the rehabilitation of the Kenya Meat Commission factory, which is expected to help the Commission realize the set target of processing 3.2 thousand metric tons of meat and meat products in the current financial year. The Ministry of Defence will be absorbing the perennial payment arrears owed to suppliers of KMC. In the financial year ended June 30th, 2020, settlement of outstanding payments to farmers who had supplied Kenya Meat Commission contributed to the 240 million shillings increase in allocation appropriated through the secondary supplementary budget. This allocation sought to settle amounts owed to 116 suppliers. Upon consummation of the transfer of ministerial responsibilities, the Defence Ministry will now have the task of determining how to place the Commission on a sound financial path. The latest available financial statements audited by the Auditor General show an entity that is technically insolvent as of the year ended June 2017 with a loss of 296 million shillings. Kenya Meat Commission sustained operations have been reliant on allocations from the public purse, with the Commission having received a 470 million shillings grant in the financial year 2016-2017. Julian's Amboko, NTV.
I wonder what you make of that move. The handle is at NTV Kenya. My handle is at Burrows. The hashtag tonight is 6 months. Is it 6 months? Yes, 6 months a pandemic. I just had to quickly consult. And starting us off on team coverage tonight is Cub reporter Mark Masai. Mark Masai, wave.
And we'll be getting to the curve in a bit. Thank you, Olive. And I don't know if you've been keeping count, but it has been 180 days since the first patient was confirmed here in Kenya. Just 4 days shy of the half year that it will be of the pandemic. It's been half a year. Now, let's look at where we are at the moment today. 104 people tested positive from a sample size of 2,285. The country's cumulative caseload now stands at over 35,400. Of the new cases, 71 are male and 33 are female. Nairobi County registered the day's highest number amongst the counties, having 18 out of the latest infections, followed by Mombasa with 16 new infections. Kisumu follows with 13, Embu 11, Laikipia 11, and Murang'a 6. 74 patients have recovered, bringing the total number of recoveries to 21,557. 8 people have died in the last 24 hours, raising the death toll to 607. These are not just numbers, these are lives that have been affected. And we do say pole sana to the families and loved ones that have lost theirs. And September, this month that we're in, was projected to be the time when Kenya would experience a peak in the infections. But since the beginning of the month, there has been a pattern of declining numbers, which puts a question whether we are actually flattening the curve. Well, let's look back to Friday, the 13th of March, 2020, when the first case was confirmed. And there with the orange line there, that marks the cases that were confirmed. And from one case on the 13th of March, the blue line there indicates those who have recovered. And on the 19th, we see a peak there. On the 22nd as well, as you see the curve going up on the 26th, 29th, and the 31st. Let's move on to the next month. And in April, and we started with 81 cases, having 2 recoveries. And on the 5th of April, it jumped to 142. On the 19th of April to 270. And on the 23rd to 320. And the month of April closed with 390 infections with 144 recoveries. To the next month, and the cases there were now going up. We were moving from the hundreds now. From the 1st of May, we had 411 infections, and going up to the end of the month there, 1,962 confirmed patients with 476 recoveries. And to the next month there, we go to June, and half of the year, and things were not looking anywhere close to where we would be in June of 2020, or at least where we would expect because of this coronavirus. We had 2,021 confirmed cases and patients of coronavirus all the way to the 30th of June with 6,366, 2,039 being those who have recovered. On the 1st of July, we were up to 6,673. And by the end of the month, now you can see that incline there. By the end of the month, we were up to 20,636 patients and recoveries of 8,165. And to the next month in August, they were at least the beginning of the month, 21,363 patients. And those who had recovered at that point at least a little over 8,400. At the end of the month, we saw 34,201 with 19,893 having been recoveries. And now, so far, in the month of September, we started with over 34,000 patients, 20,000 recoveries, and so far to date, that is the 9th of September, 35,460 with 21,557 recoveries and 607 fatalities. And yes, you may have seen that the numbers reported on a daily basis are going down, but still there is a climb from the beginning of the month in terms of the cases that have been confirmed. And the Ministry of Health says that this is going to be the case increasingly to the counties. Now, you would think, or one would imagine, if we had Utu, that at least with the negative impact that coronavirus has had in our nation, there would be a collective positive effort to at least combat this enemy. But far from it, there have been a few thieving elements. And it's depressing, Setolale, that this is something you've had to report on over weeks, that people are stealing as others are dying.
Yeah, that's true, Mark, our CAV reporter. The unfortunate thing is, as the coronavirus numbers rose in the last 6 months, the cancer of corruption became a festering lesion, eating away at the resources allocated to fighting the coronavirus. NTV did an expose on the COVID-19 millionaires that showed how much high-placed individuals misappropriated resources and donations that were meant to arm the nation against this unseen enemy. Take a look.
While the arrival of COVID-19 pandemic forced many to remain indoors, it opened doors for corruption cartels who raided the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, giving birth to the so-called COVID-19 millionaires. The grand theft started 12 days after the first positive case was reported. The first batch of a donation from Chinese philanthropist Jack Ma that included 20,000 testing kits and 100,000 face masks disappeared moments after arriving at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. 2 companies were appointed by KEMSA and authorized to clear the consignment from JKIA. There are records to show the companies received the kits, but there's no record showing where the goods ended up. Taking advantage of the global demand for crucial supplies for combating COVID-19, KEMSA gave direct tenders for medical supplies to a few chosen suppliers. The letters were signed by the then Procurement Director Charles Juma and the Chief Executive Officer Jonah Manjari. The contracts, which had COVID-19 medical supplies sourced at grossly inflated prices, were given to a few connected individuals, including government officials, politicians and ruthless business people who took full advantage of the flawed procurement system at KEMSA. For instance, a firm known as Meds supplied N95 face masks at a cost of 250 shillings each, while KEMA, East Africa Limited, Burial International Limited and Encata Diagnostic Limited supplied the same N95 face masks at a cost of 700 shillings per unit. Another company trading at Shield Trading and Logistics Limited and Megascope Healthcare Limited were to supply the same N95 face masks at a cost of 900 shillings per piece. This is over 3.5 times the price of the lowest supplier's cost. KEMSA also bought personal protective equipment kits at 9,500 shillings compared to the 5,000 shillings market price.
We are the ones who told KEMSA they cannot continue importing PPEs. We developed individual national capacity for manufacturing of these things, and consequently directed KEMSA that they must now buy locally instead of buying from overseas. That measure alone brought down the cost of PPEs from 9,000 shillings to 4,300 shillings and still going down.
With the COVID-19 curve seemingly flattening, KEMSA will now be forced to dispose the COVID-19 medical supplies at a throwaway price after initially purchasing them at higher prices. The graft at KEMSA is now being investigated by the EACC, DCI and Parliament. Private health institutions also took advantage of the pandemic. The cost of testing for COVID-19 in many private hospitals is nearly 3 times the price of procuring the testing kits from suppliers. Many private institutions charge between 10,000 and 18,000 for COVID-19 tests, but at Kenyatta National Hospital, a COVID-19 test cost 5,300 shillings. By July this year, corruption had cut through the healthcare system in the country. Looting of funds allocated for medical supplies, inflated prices of desperately needed test kits, and protective gear for health workers pioneered the establishment of money-hungry COVID-19 Millionaires Club. KEMSA CEO Jonah Manjari, Head of Procurement Charles Juma, and Commercial Director Eliud Mureithi have since been suspended following the airing of the explosive expose COVID-19 Millionaires on NTV. The KEMSA Board of Directors and Secretariat, that included Chairman Kembi Gitura and suspended CEO Jonah Manjari, was summoned before both the Joint Senate Committee and National Assembly Health Committee.
There were requests from the Cabinet Secretary, Honorable...
Written or by phone call?
Either phone calls, most of them SMSs and phone calls.
The board does not interfere or directly interfere with procurement. But I did say, did I not, that it is the work of the board to direct the management.
The chair of the board, a former senator, is now saying, I do not have any role in procurement, yet you are directing that contract be signed immediately. What is your interest?
With the 21 days deadline given by the president to the investigative agencies to get the bottom of the matter looming, the EACC conducted a series of raids at the offices and residences of a number of KEMSA senior managers, a day after the grilling of board members.
The worst bit is that as a handful of greedy individuals enrich themselves, the economy of Kenya bled, as we're about to see after this break.
Oya ni aje, mimi ndo Jonte Fresh. Mimi ndio nimetambulika hii gikomba yote sekta ya manguo. Jumio transform nguo ordinary za mtush zenye ziuka mna hii harufu ya bail into the freshest igi kosi yote. Siri ni hii Ariel mpya ya pink. Na kushow mtush zinang'ara kung'ara kushinda kamera. So clean, so fresh. Ma customer unaisana na hii story. Ninatumia Ariel touch of down mpya tu.
For a better tomorrow, don't forget to do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate every night. Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. Eno, fight heartburn and indigestion fast.
Wakenya, hii fight hatukuchagua, lakini tuko na choice. Tuchague kujilinda. Tuchague kuprotect familia zetu. Tuchague usafi. Kuosha mikono. Kuosha manyumba zetu. Ndio tulinde watoto wetu. Na tuvae mask. Future yetu iko mikononi mwetu. Kenya, let's do it for the ones we love.
The Dettol range is available on Jumia. Shop safely and conveniently today.
We really wanted to see something exciting in the restaurant scene that reflected Africa.
So the idea is to broaden the target audience because I want to spread the positive Kenyan vibes to everyone.
Our hip-hop mainly is hip-hop for the people, no?
Right.
Like we do it for the people, we do it to communicate with the people.
Welcome to Garden of Joy in Machakos by Optiven. This is a gated community that is strategically located only 7 minutes drive from Komata. The title deeds are ready. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
Thank you for staying with us on NTV tonight. We are looking at 6 months a pandemic. Now to the economy now, and the economy has suffered a serious blow from the COVID-19 pandemic. But as Victor Kiprop now reports, there is a silver lining.
Coronavirus case. From the day the first case was confirmed in the country, the coronavirus pandemic has shaken virtually every aspect of Kenya's economy. But the real cost of the pandemic lies in the number of jobs lost. According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, a record 1.7 million people have lost their jobs between April and June this year, translating to a staggering 19,000 jobs lost every day.
It's a whole lot of jobs because in a whole year, Kenya's economy creates, when growth is beyond 5%, Kenya's economy creates 900,000 jobs, about 850 to 900,000. That means in just 1 quarter alone, Kenya lost, or rather the number of jobs that were lost is equivalent to 2 years' worth of job creation.
From aviation to education, tourism and hospitality and even agriculture, the retrenchment announcements came in thick and fast as businesses struggled to stay afloat. By late May, the Central Bank of Kenya warned that 75% of SMEs were at risk of collapse if they failed to access fresh funds from lenders or partners. And by the end of June, the tourism sector had already lost half of its annual 163 billion shillings earnings.
Those who are supposed to supply services could not do it because the conditions require you to stay away from your clients. Then on the other side, say a tourist. You're running a tourist establishment, and some of it was a season where most of the tourists come from abroad. People could not travel because of transport restrictions on the one side, but also at the same time, people did not want to travel. So you have a demand and a supply side shock, both of them meeting, which makes this kind of problem or recession worse than a single recession that comes from the fact that you do not have sufficient demand.
In response, the government announced a raft of interventions, including a 54 billion shillings stimulus package, tax breaks and policy actions meant to pump more money into the economy. By the end of June, loans worth 844 billion shillings, which is 29% of the total loan book, had already been restructured. But analysts say that more could have been done to protect small and medium enterprises.
Their income tends to depend on whether their clients are and what's happening during that season. Now, if that person is not able to supply goods, right, and the demand for their goods does not exist, it doesn't matter whether you have provided them with a tax break.
Perhaps right now that even other countries have started opening up, we are seeing resumption of international flights, that there could be some targeted policies to support the SMEs, in particularly those who are relying on the imports as part of their raw materials as a starting point.
And as the country looks to flatten the curve of infections, just how quick can the economic recovery be?
I don't know. It'll really depend on how quickly we are recovering here, but also in a way depends on the neighborhood. I mean, the countries in the neighborhood, what the shock effects are. Globally, it's clear that there's going to be a contraction in among the major countries. It's very, very clear. Even if the vaccine comes quickly enough, it's not going to be deployed everywhere. So there's an extent to which it also depends on global conditions. I think there's some recovery for horticulture and something, but there are other exports that are not going to be at their peak. So it's very, very clear that this year, I think a modest 2.5 would be what we should aim for.
Up until we get the vaccine, that's the one which will now even dictate whether we could go back to a normalcy. And I'm looking at, say, second half of 2021 as a realistic time frame for us now to go back to prior COVID environment.
On March the 15th, 2020, President Uhuru Kenyatta announced the indefinite closure of all institutions of learning in the country, and that was less than 48 hours after the country had reported its first case of COVID-19. 6 months down the line, the education sector is still on physical recess, with economic disparities of the country's citizens playing out, with some pupils connecting online while the majority are missing out totally. Leila Mohammed looks at the effects of the pandemic on the education sector.
The Ministry of Health has confirmed the first coronavirus case in Kenya.
Within a few hours of this announcement, much of the country went into an official shutdown, with many unaware of how hard the pandemic would hit. By Sunday the 15th, the head of state was giving directions the country would take to control the spread of the virus, especially within the school system.
We're talking about more than 17 million children and learners out of the school system who depend on school for education. But however, there have been some form of remedial approaches. But unfortunately, they do not have the capacity to reach most of the children.
In the following few weeks, virtual learning was introduced, enabling learners to continue with learning via mobile phones, computers, televisions or radios. But this continues to prove difficult, with millions not able to connect due to various challenges.
The kind of solutions that have been available are those that will target sections in favor of maybe areas with well-endowed resources such as technology, households that have got higher incomes and such, as opposed to children from poor households, children from certain areas of this country, which may be geographically marginalized.
With the positive cases on the upward trend, the government announced a possible return to school date.
The government has decided to extend school closure for 1 month, effective from the date of opening.
By June, Kenya's COVID-19 numbers had hit the 20,000 mark, forcing the government to push the reopening date further to possibly September, when the third term of 2020 was expected to start.
The curve must flatten before they allow their children.
But even this was shelved, with the COVID-19 situation in the country not showing signs of leveling off.
Faced with this uncertain environment, these stakeholders have resolved to reopen all basic institutions in January. This is based on the assumption that the curve will have flattened, or we shall have known a little bit much more about this virus.
While some may have heaved a sigh of relief, distress was evident among candidates, with the possibility of having to rewind the academic year back to default settings now evident.
There will be no CPE examinations in 2021, in the later part of 2021.
When we open the first week, are we going to be doing thorough cleaning? Are we going to revise for the exams that were there in first term? Are we going to go to second term? Or are we going to have an accelerated calendar that takes us into 2021? So just even the very mention that we collectively decided to cancel the year 2020. Now, we have to recognize when we go back, children have lost what they had learned.
While Professor George Magoha plans out the logistics of bringing back students to the classroom, education experts now say it will not be as easy as picking up the pieces physically, but also looking at the emotional preparedness of the students.
For 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, children stayed at home without getting any form of learning. Can we now begin to wean children from being home so that our school will be more realistic to say, will we now do a national trial of deboarding this country? To say, let every child go to that nearest public or private secondary school next to their house.
Experts say many private schools will struggle to get back to their feet due to financial constraints.
We have seen that parents have played a big role in educating their children. Are we now going to see some level of decongesting of the curriculum? That is an honest conversation to have. What does it mean? You're saying, if you're going to keep young children, I mean, it will be taught how to wash their hands, which we were doing with our children for the last 7 months. Honestly, why don't you now begin to let now parents to play a bigger role?
While the public school system will be cushioned by government funding, the private sector might also need a helping hand.
From the hard lessons in the education sector, next, Charity Mwangi will look at the harsh realities presented by the virus today after this break.
We ready? Okay, let's go. Across Africa, in homes, towns and cities, men, women and children will stop, united by football. It's the world's game.
Glorious! Oh, it is out of this world!
Stay connected to DSTV to watch the world's best football.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
So vile nasema, wacha nikubatie statistics. Niko na gamia 1,500. Tunakuwa drapo gamia na kuwa 6,000. 2,000 natengeneza leather, natengeneza viatu, wallet, kibeti, nauza hapa, na batia wewe 50%. Wacha niweke credit nikupigie.
Namna gani wewe? Hii mambo ya kuishiwa na credit kila saa. Come on. Nunua hiyo simu ya Vodafone. Calling fiber to fiber is 0 shillings per minute. And it is not expensive. Only 2,999 Kenya shillings.
Alo hali wa. Hata fadhali hiyo credit ikae ninunue simu basi.
Faibika leo na Vodafone for only 2,999 Kenya shillings. It will always be free to call fiber to fiber.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white clothes, towels, and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it.
The county government of Kajiado, with the approval of His Excellency Joseph Olelenku, would like to notify all landowners in Kajiado County to take advantage of the ongoing 100% waiver on outstanding land rates penalties, which will end on 15th September 2020. The county government will institute the necessary measures to recover all unpaid rates and penalties. Payments should be made through the respective sub-county offices or through a banker's check or direct transfers.
Death is inevitable, but that does not mean it's the end for your family. Protect them financially by getting the DTB Last Expense Cover. No need to break the bank when paying for the last expense cover. Enjoy premiums as low as 600 shillings per year. We know death can occur at any time, and that is why we will process all the claims within 48 hours. With the DTB Last Expense, you can cover up to 5 nuclear family members, including parents and parents-in-law.
Melissa? Mom, it's Dad's birthday today. I'm giving him a party just like he gives me.
Nothing makes a mother more proud than seeing her child growing up. But I know that as she learns to care for others, she'll face even more germs and the risk of illnesses.
That's why you need strong Dettol protection. Just 1 cup of Dettol protects your home and family from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
The Dettol range is available on Jumia. Shop safely and conveniently today.
You remember that when Corona landed in Kenya, there were those who braced themselves for impact, but a majority was skeptical about the warning. The common question was if you know someone who has Corona. Well, it is becoming more common that you hear of someone who has been infected or even lost a loved one. I spoke to a survivor who remains hopeful that things will get better.
When COVID hit the country 6 months ago, it seemed as though it was a distant problem affecting distant people. Slowly, the numbers increased and the problem got closer and closer. Geoffrey was a skeptic, but eventually the coronavirus crept into his home and into his body.
I didn't have any symptoms that could show me that I have COVID. I wasn't coughing, I didn't have headaches. Apart from just fever. My appetite was super. I could eat. I didn't have any other stuff.
He would quickly seek treatment for an unknown blood infection until the doctor broke the unexpected scary news. He had contracted COVID-19.
I broke, but I didn't want to break in front of her. Immediately she left. I cried. For 5 good minutes I cried. Trust me, so many things were in my head. COVID.
Treating a disease without a known treatment can seem like a death sentence. At some point, Geoffrey thought the end was near for him.
I lost my breath one of the night. I went to the toilet and then coming out, I wasn't able to breathe. That time I discovered, I said, things are bad here. So that's the time the hospital decided to put me on oxygen. And then later on they told me I have severe pneumonia.
Upon being declared free of the virus, the government had to make sure that Geoffrey will be able to get back to normal life without risking reinfection from his wife, who was asymptomatic.
When I came home, Sylvia had already prepared the other bedroom for me. So for the first 1 week, I slept in the second bedroom. My wife was in her master bedroom, and she was on mask throughout. For me, I didn't wear a mask, but for her, she was on mask throughout. She had to use gloves all the time when she cleaned the house. We always sit on the same seat when you're watching TV. This now was a seat, the other sofa seat was mine.
There was some adjustments to make in how the household was ran. Social distancing between loved ones. Food preparation required protective gear, and sanitation was taken much seriously than before. Around his house, the evidence of equipment he used in his recovery journey. Breathing exercises helped increase his lung capacity and performance.
While he makes it seem easy, Geoffrey tells me that when he was sick, the breathing exercises were not as easy as it looks.
He faced a bit of the stigma, but not as bad as others have encountered.
Some of our friends, I can tell from their body language, even from the communication on the phone, some are scared. So I don't know about people inviting us to their homes very soon.
Geoffrey is, however, encouraged by the dwindling number of people infected every day. He tells us that though things may never completely go back to normal, better days lie ahead.
Kevin and Tai, these accounts are going to be more, especially from the counties, right?
Charity, just a couple of days ago, Kitui had the highest number of confirmations ahead of Nairobi, which has been leading. Now, I have been reporting from Mombasa over the last 6 months, and I can tell you there is a collective sigh of relief that the region has been reporting lower numbers. As of today, Kenya has recorded more than 35,000 cases of coronavirus disease, with over 21,000 recoveries and just over 600 deaths. Nairobi and Mombasa counties have had the highest attack rates of COVID-19, rising to the highs of 196 and 155 respectively, per a population of 100,000, but with the declining numbers of infected persons. Epidemiologists project that the curve across the country might flatten soon.
We have not flattened the curve, but we are getting there. To flatten the curve, we should have a positivity rate of below 5%. As at today, we're at 5.4%, and I believe that in the next couple of weeks, we should be below 5%. Then after we've had it below 5% for about 2 weeks, then we can confidently say that the curve has been flattened.
Mombasa is among the counties which employed mechanisms to counter the virus by heavily investing in isolation centers. Before the first case was reported on 7th March 2020, there were already more than 100 isolation beds available. So far, more than 45,000 samples have been tested in Mombasa, out of which 2,428 have tested positive for the virus. 68 people in the port city have died.
Coast General has 780 beds, but we isolated one section of the hospital to set aside 152 beds, of which 12 were ICU beds, specifically for COVID. We have 10 ventilators, and all beds are actually connected to oxygen. So any patient who contracts COVID and is critically ill or severely ill is able to get advanced care at Coast General Teaching and Referral Hospital.
The upsurge in the number of COVID-19 infections overstretched healthcare systems in the counties to a point where the government chose to implement home-based isolation, except for those with underlying medical conditions. Mombasa has 231 people in self-isolation, as health officials report that most cases in the country do not display any symptoms.
When it first came in, I guess most people were not sure how to react to the disease, and maybe there was a lot of panic. But as we've continued to sensitize the residents, we're finding that 92% of those who actually contract COVID end up being asymptomatic.
At the onset of the pandemic, President Uhuru Kenyatta directed counties to ensure that they have an isolation bed capacity of 300. Today, some counties have met that target. The Ministry of Health also devolved its COVID-19 testing capacity and set up labs in some counties in order to ease pressure from Nairobi. The Council of Governors say that counties have received a total of 7.8 billion shillings in COVID-19 financing. Anita, as much as it is welcome news that numbers of infections are expected to go down, there's a big question of when an approved vaccine will be taken up across the globe, right?
Kevin, the jury, or should I say research labs, are still out on the search, and I can tell you that it is definitely a scramble for that desperately needed shot that would lead to a cure.
The spread of COVID-19 has changed the world as we know it. Since it was first reported, countries across the world, including Kenya, have turned to their best scientists searching for answers in the hopes of creating a vaccine that can then return some form of normalcy to the world. The irony in all this is that in normal circumstances, vaccine development takes years, if not decades. But these are not normal times, and as a result, developing a COVID vaccine is being hastened. There are several phases a vaccine must go through during trials before being released. They range between the preclinical testing phase and the final approval stage. Russia and China are 2 out of 9 that are in phase 3 and administering the vaccine to thousands of people. To date, there are more than 165 vaccine prototypes under development. Out of these, 37 are in human clinical trial stages. So far, only 3 have been approved for limited use and none has been approved for full use. Russia, which was the first country to announce that it had begun its production of a version of a COVID-19 vaccine named Sputnik V, has begun releasing it to the general public. More than 20 countries have requested over 1 billion doses of Russia's vaccine, despite safety concerns that have been raised by health experts. Kenya is one of them.
Through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs shall engage to find out, what exactly, what vaccine has been deployed, is it working, and also if it should be necessary for us to then plug into the Russian vaccine, that will happen in the laid down protocols.
The Russian vaccine is not the only one that Kenya is interested in. The Ministry of Health says the country is working on something with Oxford University.
We are still on track as far as the Oxford vaccine is concerned, which is the one that we are collaborating through the Kemri Wellcome Trust Research Institute with Oxford University in an early phase trial of that vaccine. That one is on track. The protocol has been approved and recruitment is going to get started very soon.
However, Kenya might have to wait a little longer for the Oxford vaccine because human trials have been temporarily halted after a subject developed an unexplained illness. Oxford says it is currently trying to establish whether the patient's condition could be related to the vaccine. Kenya is also one of 92 economies that are engaging with the WHO and the COVAX Global Vaccines Facility. Countries that are part of the initiative will work with vaccine manufacturers and the WHO to ensure a timely, equitable access to all vaccines licensed and approved.
The first priority must be to vaccinate some people in all countries rather than all people in some countries. This is not just a moral imperative and a public health imperative. It's also an economic imperative. In our interconnected world, if people in low and middle income countries miss out on vaccines, the virus will continue to kill and the economic recovery globally will be delayed.
The road to getting that magical potion, so to speak, is still a long ways out. And our continued coverage on 6 months of a pandemic goes on till Sunday. Dan Wangi will be back after the break with business news.
We all are looking for products to protect ourselves from viruses, but not all products protect us. Did you know that using Dettol soap and water protects against viruses? Many viruses are surrounded by an envelope with receptors that enable them to enter a human cell and cause infection. Dettol soap destroys the outer layer of the virus and effectively removes it. Protect your family from the spread of viruses with Dettol. Dettol cleans and is now tested and proven to be effective against COVID-19 virus. This has been Medivax for Dettol.
The Dettol range is available on Jumia. Shop safely and conveniently today.
Guy, unajua ukikula supa moja utakuwa na superpowers?
Let me try.
Jiamini.
Wow.
Indomie, now available in chicken, beef, and Supermojo. Supermojo, Jiamini.
That was not my fault. No.
Ah, Helen Paul.
Hello, madam. Would you like to join us on this mission?
Yes, but how?
Just one question for you. How do you keep your toilet clean?
I use regular detergent and bleach for washing and removing yellow stains. I've been using it for years.
Oh, madam, the regular detergents and bleach are used for washing clothes. To disinfect your toilet properly, you need Harpic 10X. It is specially made for germs and stains removal. Harpic's thick formula settles on stains and gives 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergents and bleach.
Wow, now I'm convinced, Helen Paul.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that she's part of the mission, the next house is yours.
Good evening, welcome to NTV Business. I'm Dan Mwangi. A quick look at what's happening at all makes sense of all that's making sense. Africa Oil has been granted an extension of the exploration of 2 oil blocks by the government of Kenya up to December 31st this year, with the possibility of a 1-year extension beyond that, subject to an agreement on the work program and budgets. The extension has been granted for exploration on blocks 10BB and 13T. Africa Oil intends to use the extended time framework to work closely with its joint venture partners to submit an updated field development plan before the end of next year. Africa Oil, a Canadian oil and gas company, is in a joint venture with Tullow Oil and Total. The extension granted to Africa Oil, while giving Kenyans hope of eventually benefiting from the black gold, pushes further forward the date when those benefits will actually begin to accrue. The National Cereals and Produce Board has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Eastern Africa Grain Council to support the implementation of the East Africa Community Staple Foods Quality Standards and Management of Aflatoxin. NCPB says the MOU will provide a framework through which the two institutions will work to promote a structured trading system for grains, provide market linkages for farmers, and also offer training on the acceptable standards and quality of food in East Africa. The partnership comes amid growing concern over the levels of aflatoxin across the region and is intended to provide the best practice for the handling of grains.
And for us to be able to execute satisfactorily, there is a need for us to interface and to work very closely with other private sector institutions to promote, commercial interest for the mutual benefit of all the institutions which are involved.
Business and I are done, but Olive brings you the sports news after this.
Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. Eno, fight heartburn and indigestion fast.
Guys, unajua ukikula supu moja utakuwa na superpowers?
Let me try.
Jiamini.
Wow. Indomie, now available in chicken, beef, and Supermojo. Jiamini.
Breaking news from Molfix. Let's see what they're developing right now.
That is just for me. It really feels very comfy.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies.
You should also try Molfix.
From far with you. I even gifted you a magnificent house. Rosa, it's the thought that counts. Please help me.
When it comes to fever, you need to be both. Panadol Baby and Infant starts to work on fever in 15 minutes and is gentle on the tummy. Panadol Baby and Infant, tough on fever, gentle on your child.
We really wanted to see something exciting in the restaurant scene that reflected Africa.
So the idea is to broaden the target audience because I want to spread the positive Kenyan vibes to everyone.
Our hip-hop mainly is hip-hop for the people, no?
Right.
Like we do it for the people, we do it to communicate with the people.
Welcome to Garden of Joy in Machakos by Optiven. This is a gated community that is strategically located only 7 minutes drive from Komata. The title deeds are ready. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
Time for the sports news now, and your favorite channel, NTV, will be airing the 40th edition of the London Marathon live on the 4th of October. Nation Media Group, through its platforms, will be covering the build-up all the way to race day next month. The move is part of Nation Media Group's initiative to support sport and provide audiences with high-quality entertainment.
With majority of 2020 sports events cancelled as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, NTV has gone an extra mile to bring the year's most high-profile athletics event to your screens.
We will be delivering the London Marathon to you on 4th of October this year across our NTV platform.
NTV will cover daily build-up until race day on October 4th, with the showpiece event to air on NTV Kenya and NTV Uganda. Besides the live coverage on television platforms, the event will be live on radio and on all digital platforms.
You don't have to be stuck at home. Wherever you are, you can be able to literally be able to push the Kenyan athletes towards the finish line.
With only 2, London and Tokyo, of the 6 marathons that make the World Marathon Major Series surviving the pandemic effects, the UK capital will be the setting for 2 of the world's fastest marathoners to duel, Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge and Ethiopia's Kenenisa Bekele.
So thank you for actually for hiring this thing. Thank you for actually preparing well for the 4th of October. I hope all the Kenyans over that 5 million will watch, which will be a good thing.
Marathon world record holder Kipchoge, as well as women's marathon world record holder Bridget Kosgei, will look to defend their titles.
Let's go, Kenya, let's go. Let's go, Kenya, let's go. Let's go.
Can you believe they did not even save me a piece of cake? I'll have to take it up with Ida Waringa, but good news all around. Reigning Olympic champion Faith Kipyegon ran the 1,500 meters race in 3 minutes 59.05 seconds to become the second woman this year to go under 4 minutes. The win at the World Athletics Continental Gold Tour Ostrava leg was Kipyegon's 3rd win since the restart of the athletics calendar due to COVID-19. Sifan Hassan of the Netherlands won the women's 5,000 meters ahead of Kenya's Sheila Chelagat. Chelagat clocked a personal best time of 14 minutes and 40.51 seconds, 3 seconds behind the Dutch, who ran a season's best time of 14 minutes and 37.85 seconds. In the men's 1,500 meters, Norwegian Jakob Ingebrigtsen took full advantage of Timothy Cheruyot's absence to win the race ahead of Kenyan youngster Kumari Taki. In the 800 meters, Kenya's Commonwealth Games champion Wycliffe Kinyamal could only finish 7th. Britain's Jake Whiteman won the race. Oh, there you go. There you are. That concludes NTV Tonight. My name is Olive Burrows. It's been such a pleasure to host you. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.